The red keep slept fitfully beneath a veil of humid night, its stones sweating the last warmth of day into the air like anxious breaths. Moonlight silvered the crenellations, the towers, the murderous saugage of Mager's holdfast, yet the heart of the castle remained a furnace. Buried ovens still glowed in the kitchens, paired torches guttered in every corridor. Braziers burned in the throne room because King Ares could not brook a single shadow. Sparks drifted like fireflies, and every soldier who paced beneath them felt the castle's midnight pulse. Thud, thud, echo, in his own ribs. Far above, in the king's high chamber, the Mad King sat rigid on a cushioned window seat. Fingers laced so tight, the knuckles shone like polished bone. His eyes were open, though unseeing, fixed on the black scrawl of sky. He heard the distant seabirds complaining over the dark waters of Blackwater Bay. Yet their cry was thin compared to the voice that pressed behind the birdsong, a whisper that slid between his thoughts and planted roots. "Do it now," the whisper said. "Strike before they rise against you. Only wildfire is faithful." Ares blinked hard. Once. Twice. Somewhere beyond the room, crickets pleaded for the night to stay. He tasted copper on his tongue. He pressed shaking fingertips to his lips, but there was no wound, no blood. Only the memory of a taste that had never truly been there. They laugh at you. They all do. Tywin hides the dagger behind a smile. He means to flay your throne and wear it as a cloak. Ares's jaw trembled. He dragged in a ragged breath, feeling parchment-thin skin flex over his ribs. The crackling hearth at his back was a dragon's mouth, scorching him. Yet he would not turn away from the window. The window was safer. The window could not betray him. He stared at his reflection in the dark glass and feared that at any moment the glass might wink and turn to water, and behind it a stranger's face would peer back, familiar yet not. Eyes milk pale, mouth twisted in regret. Burn them all. The whisper sighed, soft as silk sliding from a blade. Burn them before they burn you. He shuddered. The echo rang in his skull, but the voice was not merely an echo. It lived inside him like breath lives inside lungs, like blood floods a heart. He had heard whispers his entire reign, phantoms conjured by paranoia, servants of suspicion. But this voice felt heavier, realer, its tongue licking the raw places of his mind. Far away from that tower, beneath roots older than language, Bran Stark crouched in the darkness of a hollow so vast the mind could confuse it with night itself. Weirwood roots twined like ribs overhead, grown large as pillars, white bark veined crimson in the glow of heartsap. He felt the slow, cold tide of the Greenseer's trance sweep through him and over, washing the mortal fear from bone and muscle, leaving only the hum of the world tree in its stead. The ravens roosting on branches far above shifted, feathers rasping in the dimness, restless at the boy's presence. But Bran was no longer merely a boy. He was a stone flung across a pool, skipping from century to century. He had touched summers that preceded Aegon's conquest, had tasted snows that would not fall for centuries yet. He knew the crack of the hammer when Brandon the Builder set the first ice block of the wall. He knew the howl of wind in the ears of the last giant as it died in the north. And now, he knew the place in time where King Aerys's mind lay open as a wound. A cracking, splintered door. A hollow to fill. Bran had told himself, "I will only watch." The past was stone. The past was river. The past could not be carved anew. That was the first lesson the three-eyed crow had murmured in his dreams. But many lessons came after, and some lessons contradicted, the way light contradicts shadow when candle meets mirror. He had seen the war to come, dragons spiraling through storm cloud, shadow wolves howling in fields piled with corpses, a night dark enough to smother every star. He had tried to steer around it, subtle as a breeze nudging a leaf. And each time, time corrected itself, insisting on the same grim course. So Bran stepped closer to the wound, and the wound became a corridor, and the corridor a door written in flame and water. He passed through, and felt King Aerys's heartbeat stutter beneath his own ribs. He perched behind the Mad King's eyes like a raven behind window lattice. He tasted the copper that was not there. He felt the tremble of bone. And in that trembling space, Bran whispered. Though he had not planned to whisper, though his lips were not truly his, burn them before they burn you. Eris flinched. Bran felt the man's flesh recoil, as though from a hot iron. The king's fingertips dug harder into each other until nails purpled. Bran tried to pull back, tried to still the message before message became command, but the door had shut behind him. The line between caution and necessity blurred. Every future Bran had walked ended in storms of ice and fire. If Eris burned King's Landing now, decades earlier, dragons might never revive, the Targaryen line might perish in ash, and if the dragons never rose, perhaps the long night would smother the world unopposed. Yet if Aerys didn't burn the city, Robert's rebellion would still rise, fueled by rumor and fear, and dragons would still sleep beneath the world, and the others would still cross the snows. So Bran whispered without quite meaning to, "Not yet. Wait for the sign. Listen for the singers in the walls. They will guide your hand." Aerys's eyes widened, pupils twin pinpricks. "Singers," he breathed. "Singers in the walls." He lurched to his feet, robes whispering. Embers collared his silhouette. For a moment, Bran saw him as the realm once had. Tall, striking, silver hair, streaming like pennant rope. But there was no strength in Aerys now, only sinew strung on dread. He tottered toward a table littered with parchments, seized a quill, and scrawled a name again and again. Rossart. Rossart. Bran withdrew, heart pummeling his chest. The cavern of roots blurred, the ravens croaked uneasily. He pressed both palms to the mossy floor, and tried to remember who he was. Bran Tual, son of Eddard Stark. Heir to Winterfell once, then broken, then reborn. But in the dim, the roots seemed to whisper back, Primarch, shaping the old Valyrian syllables with the hush of leaves. Bran knew that word from old legends Southron masters scoffed at. A Primarch was a vessel of creation, a being forged to bear the burden of reshaping worlds. If he was that, he was an unsteady one, for already he had left footprints where none should lie. A wind swept through the cavern then, no natural gale, but a ripple in time's fabric. Bran tasted iron and snow. He saw a lynx's pale sky, endless ridges of ice, a dead man's blue stare boring into his own. The vision cracked like glass, pain spiked behind his eyes. He gasped, and the forest answered, hissing. You cannot mend the tapestry by pulling stray threads. The woven voices of the children of the forest seemed to chant. A thread stripped from its place unravels others still. But Bran was not listening to censure. He was listening to wind. Somewhere, thin and distant, a horn blew. 3 blasts. His skin puckered. When he opened his eyes again, he lay not beneath the roots, but on a cold floor of dark wood, in the turret chamber of Winterfell's broken tower. Summer, his direwolf, stood over him, muzzle pressed to Bran's cheek, whining. Dim morning filtered through a cracked arrow slit. Bran's first thought was no time has passed. But the bird song outside was wrong, too many larks for dawn, telling him a day at least had fled. He pushed upright. Sweat slicked his back. The castle around him groaned as if in dreamless sleep. He felt the distant tug of ravens along the neck, a scattered net of watchers, centuries old, bound now to his will. He reached for them, but his mind spat sparks. Too soon. He needed rest, and he would have none. Because in King's Landing, Aerys Targaryen summoned his pyromancers. Rossart, gaunt and reeking of smoke, knelt beside a brazier in the small council chamber, emerald glow splashing his face. Your Grace, he murmured, wildfire is no simple dagger. It gnaws at the cask, longs for air, to store such volumes beneath the city. Store? Aerys laughed, dry as a snake's hiss. No, Rossart. We shall seed it. From Dragon Pit to Flea Bottom. From the Sept of Baelor to the Dragon Gate. The city shall be my egg, and wildfire the flame that births a purer world. Then Rossart's gaze flicked across the room to Lord Carlton Chelstead, to Wisdom Bellis, to the other solemn men in green robes. None dared speak. The Mad King's nails clicked on the arm of his chair. He had heard the singers in the walls each night since the first whisper. They told him of hands sharpening swords in Storm's End, of lions roaring in Casterly Rock, of stags pawing the earth in the Stormlands. They told him how they conspired to end the dragon line. Eris smiled. He would end them first. Burn them all, and raise a new empire of flame. In his mind, though he did not know it for a mind apart, Bran shouted, "No! Not yet. Not yet. Wait." His shout was fleeting, a bird seeking perch on galley-racked mast. It vanished in the roar of wildfire visions. And so the plan unfurled, like a cruel blossom. Casks carted through secret tunnels. Vast caverns beneath streets measured and mapped. The alchemists tied their greed for risk, in exchange for promise of immortal favor. The city's common folk smelt strange sweet smoke on night air and dreamed uneasy dreams. Meanwhile, at Dragonstone, Prince Rhaegar walked the basalt gallery that overlooked churning surf. He wore velvet, the color of old books, star sigils stitched in silver at his collar. Harp music still clung to his memory from the practice chamber. He hummed a fragment, lost in thought. He felt the realm tighten around him as a noose. Ravens whispered of Lord Robert's broad grin in the lists, of Lyanna Stark's laughing dismay, of Hoster Tully's health failing. He felt his father drifting further upon seas of distrust, unreachable, calling for flames at every hour. Rhaegar paused at a window. The sea below was black glass fractured by moonlight. A gull hung motionless on the wind, wings pinned like relics of some fallen Primarch, half-ruined yet magnificent. Rhaegar closed his eyes. If I do nothing, he thought, doom descends. If I act, doom may still descend, but perhaps it shifts its weight. He pictured a trio of dragons. One for him, one for Elia, and one for the child yet unborn, soaring above a world unchained from blooded cycles. The song of ice and fire needed its final verse, yet the words blurred. When he opened his eyes, a raven sat on the sill. White feathering dusted its black and indigo wings. Its gaze bored into his. Rhaegar's breath hitched. Ravens were common enough, yet this one felt sent, purposeful as a messenger of old Valyria. He stepped back. The bird tilted its head, blinked once, then croaked a single syllable that scraped Rhaegar's soul. "Wait!" Wind seized the bird, then whipping it into the dark. Rhaegar stared after, heart hammering. In the crypt below Winterfell, Bran Stark knelt before the statue of Lyanna, hearing his own raven deliver the plea he could not. He wanted to send a dozen more, but his strength ebbed like tidewater through broken sluice. Too many threads tugged at him. Each whisper risked fray. Yet if he remained silent, the wildfire might ignite before Robert's fury lit its match. If he spoke too often, he might stir storms worse still. He was learning that shaping time was like shaping molten glass. Turn too slow, the glass sagged. Too quick, it shattered. From the rookery above, Maester Luwin's voice echoed down the tower stair, mild and curious. "Bran, are you there? A raven has come for Lord Stark." Then Shantoal. Bran rose, brushing stone dust from his knees. He leaned on his staff and limped toward the voice, heart heavy. Letters would fly between great houses soon. Secrets and fears would braid into cause. The howl of war was nearer with each breath. And in the Red Keep, King Aerys ordered fresh torches, placed every 20 paces along the Blackwater rush, so the night cloak of his city might blaze like dawn even at midnight. He watched flames leap in mirror reflections, and fancied them dragons' tongues. "Burn them all," the singers whispered behind the stone. He smiled, thinking they sang. Bran watched, powerless and powerful. A god of embryos, a Primarch half-forged. Somewhere beyond counting years, the night tilted its cold crown. Stars trembled as if sensing future ash. The world stood at a hinge wrought by an unsteady boy, and the hinge squealed. K. The wildfire vault beneath the guild hall of the alchemists stretched away into gloom. Row on row of clay pots, squatting in oily shadow. Rossart paced between them, counting under his breath. 813. 814. Each jar bore the raised sigil of a dragon with 3 heads, open-mouthed, fire pouring from stone lips. The fragrance was sweet, almost cloying, masking the stench of brimstone hidden within. Rossart had taken to wearing a silk kerchief soaked in myrrh to numb his nostrils. Even so, each breath scalded. He paused beside a cask, whose glaze reflected sickly torchlight, and laid a trembling palm upon its curve. Young Wisdom Bellis lingered a few paces off, quill poised above parchment, ready to scratch down the tally. Rossart could hear the boy's ink drying in the heat before it ever touched the page. 815, Rossart whispered. Bellis repeated the number, wrote it, blew gently. The parchment fluttered like a startled bat. Above their heads the outer city thrummed with life. Merchants closing stalls, singers tuning lutes, thieves weighing purses by moonlight. None of them understood the sea of jade death sleeping underfoot. They dreamt of bread, of coin, of bedding warm bodies. They did not dream of glass demons whose bellies were green hellfire waiting to be born. Rossart straightened, joints cracking. The king requests 1,000 by month's end. Bellis's quill hesitated. 1,000? Wisdom? We have but 26 days remaining. Then we shall sleep less. Rossart offered a thin smile, but it cracked at the corners. He felt the whispers too, those that slipped from stone as dusk fell. Near dawn they hissed so near his ear, the tiny hairs within quivered. He told himself it was wind snagging through mortar, yet mortar seldom spoke of dragons rising from grave bones or stags, nailed to walls with iron spikes. As they moved deeper into the vault, a faint thrum rose in Rossart's skull, like a mallet striking soft bronze, again and again, finding a rhythm. He laid 2 fingertips against his temple and felt the skin twitch. He had known migraines in youth, but never voices. They belonged to the king alone. So he prayed. When they emerged into night's heat, King's Landing shimmered. Torches ringed every quarter, brightening alleys that used to brood in black. Along the Blackwater rush, new braziers burned high, wood crackling. The greasy rivers seemed aflame with their reflection. A patrol of gold cloaks marched past in lockstep, helms shining. Their captain glanced at Rossart and offered no salute. The alchemist's robe smelled of smoke. The captain's nose wrinkled. Rossart watched them go, wondering how many would die in green agony when the jars were loosed. Not all of them, surely, just enough to cauterize treason. And traitors hid everywhere now, behind every sigil, in every whispered jest. He rubbed his fingertips together and found them trembling. Across the waters in Dragonstone's wind-scoured yard, a trio of Dragon Guard statues watched Prince Rhaegar's pacing shadow. Storm clouds loomed beyond the bay, but they held no rain. Only silent menace, as though sky itself waited for Rhaegar's choice. He walked in circles, harp forgotten in the vaulted room behind him, silver strings still humming from his last chord. The raven's single word haunted. Wait. Wait for what? The world slid toward calamity. His father salted King's Landing with wildfire, court whispers said. Lords muttered of rebellion. At Summerhall, ancient ashes stirred in memory, whispering what became of Targaryens who danced too near fire. Elia sat alone tonight, cradling young Aegon. Her letters to Sunspear spoke of longing for orange groves and sea breeze. Would Dorne follow him if war came? Would the capital burn before he could stop it? He halted at the balustrade. The sea churned below like dark cloth flapping. Lightning flickered far south, painting ragged mountain shapes on horizon. Rhaegar laid a palm over his heart and closed his eyes. Within the black behind lids 2 figures formed. A child with eyes milk pale, mouth drawn in sorrow, and a woman cloaked in winter, holding a blade of dawnlight. Their images drifted apart, like leaves on wind. Rhaegar felt their weight, though he knew them not. It must be me, he whispered to the wind, or the world dissolves. Yet which path, which moment, would spare them? His fingers twitched, as though plucking harp again, searching for a chord that would mend. A servant's footsteps broke the hush. Rhaegar turned. The man bowed low, proffering a wax-sealed scroll stamped with the crowned stag of Storm's End. Rhaegar accepted, cracked the seal. Ink smelled fresh. He read slowly. At first his brow knit, then his eyes widened. He lowered the parchment. Lyanna Stark. The storm gave no answer. Winterfell's great hall glowed amber beneath iron chandeliers. Wolf banners hung motionless in breathless heat. Lord Rickard Stark sat at high table reviewing the letter just arrived from Dragonstone. His gray eyes traced each line twice. Across from him, Brandon fidgeted. "A betrothal tourney?" Brandon blurted at last. "Prince Rhaegar's hosting a tourney at Storm's End to celebrate Visenya's naming? Or was it?" "Visenya?" Rickard arched a brow. Brandon flushed. "No, Rhaenys, I mean. He named the babe Rhaenys." He scrubbed a hand through russet hair. "I care not for Targaryen names. Why does he want Lyanna present?" "Courtesy, perhaps." Rickard's tone held misgiving. "Or politics. A Stark South strengthens loyalty." Brandon thumped fist to table. "It strengthens chains. Targaryen courtesy burned Harrenhal once, father. It may roast King's Landing again." "Bell. You think Rhaegar conspires?" "I think his father froths like a rabid dog, and dogs bite those nearest." Brandon leaned forward. "Let me ride to Storm's End. See the truth with my own eyes. Let me speak to Lyanna." Rickard folded the parchment. "You may ride, but with caution. And you will speak with your sister, nothing more." Brandon grinned. Relief brightened him, but the smile slid when he glimpsed his father's eyes. Rickard Stark had seen men gutted on sky-blue ice. He read storms before ravens ever winged. Something in the tremble of ink on this parchment unsettled him deeper than southern schemes. The realm's pulse quickened, too near fever. Later, when hall cleared and fires dimmed, Rickard stole to the Godswood. The moon balanced on Winterfell's walls like a silver coin about to drop. Snowflakes waltzed in fitful wind. He knelt before the heart tree, feeling old as its face carved in bleeding bark. He prayed for guidance, yet found only silence. And behind silence, a cold flutter, almost a voice, almost a thought not his own, whispering words just beyond hearing. "Prime Arc." Rickard stiffened. He knew the old stories of Primarchs, agents of shaping, heroes and monsters both. He bowed his head lower. Snow melting in hair. The whisper retreated, but unease lingered. Deep beneath Winterfell, Bran stood at Lyanna's statue again, candle trembling in hand. He had watched Brandon speak, had felt pride in the older brother's fire, sorrow in his father's worry. Bran yearned to warn them all, but each warning carved fresh cracks in time. He closed his eyes and let the candle wink out. Darkness thickened until it pulsed. He lifted arms, skin prickling, and allowed roots of the weirwood net to invade him once more. The cavern of endless time opened, beckoning. He would watch only a little. He would float above the hinge, measuring risk. No more whispers. Yet the moment he drifted into years gone stone, he felt Eris's mind like a blazing bonfire in moonless plain. Impossible to ignore. Its heat tugged him. He forced himself north, seeking cool refuge in Winterfell's past. Instead he slipped sideways, landing in a forge lit by red coals. Sparks danced. A boy in gray leathers raised a hammer over a sword blank. Bran recognized the face instantly. A young Jaime Lannister, cheeks still soft, brows knit in concentration. Not yet the Kingslayer. Not yet sworn to any oath. Bran hovered above, invisible. The hammer fell in slow rhythm. Clank, clang. Clank, clang. Each strike rang like a bell in Bran's breast. Jaime lifted the unfinished blade, peered along edge, and smiled shy pride. Bran felt the boy's thoughts. Desire for glory. Hunger to carve a name bright as his father's. Yet lurking beneath, faint unease at tales seeping from court. Eris's new torches, the whispering singers in walls, servants vanished after night duty. Jaime lowered the blade, set hammer down, and wiped sweat. For heartbeat, he stared into the forge's glow, as though reading omens in ember swirl. Bran felt a fierce tenderness. Could this boy still choose another path? Could he become shield, not slayer? Primarch, the roots murmured behind Bran's ear. No, he told them. "I will not." But he watched Jaime wrap the blade, carry it from forge to courtyard, where dawn cracked gold upon battlements. Sir Arthur Dane greeted him, a white cloak, bright as snow. The sword of the morning took the blade, tested balance, nodded satisfaction. "Your hand grows steady, squire." Pride blossomed in Jaime's chest. Bran tasted it. Arthur sheathed the blade. "The king will want new swords soon," he said. "The realm's breathing quickens. You will stand ready in mind and body." Jaime bowed. Bran drifted back, letting scene blur. He would not whisper. Let the boy's heart guide him. Yet as Bran pulled away, a gale of fear swept him sideways, south again to the dungeons beneath the Red Keep. He landed within black corridors slick with damp. Far down one shaft of torch glow, a jailer dragged a limp body. A woman, smelling of sour wine, her ankles bloodied from bonds. Bran's stomach churned. He saw Rossart waiting at a door, eyes bright fanatic. The jailer flung woman at Rossart's feet. "One of the cooks, my lord, spoke of your green demon pots while drinking. Said the king means to torch his city." Someone reported it. Rossart's smile curved thin as knife. "Then we shall quiet her tongue." He dipped a brush in liquid wildfire, tracing glyphs upon dungeon wall. The liquid hissed where it touched stone, but did not ignite. Yet, the cook sobbed. Bran recoiled. He felt Eris's presence above, pulse vibrating through every beam. Bran fled. In Casterly Rock's towering solar, Lord Tywin considered 3 letters side by side, one from King's Landing, short and scrawled in a restless hand, one from Stannis Baratheon, stiff with courtesy, and one from Prince Rhaegar, polished eloquence. Candles shimmered across the lion and ruby-inlaid desk. Cersei knelt on cushioned bench near hearth, brushing her daughter's golden hair. The child might have been doll still, listening to a story unspoken. Jaime stood at lattice window, watching waves crash far below. "The king," Tywin said at last, voice flat, "demands 200 additional men for his personal guard. He names no cause." Jaime spoke without turning. "He fears ghosts. Ghosts with antlers," Cersei said, "a little too bright." Tywin studied her. "And stags do indeed gather. Lord Robert sends word of a tourney to brighten Storm's End. But his brother Stannis writes of grain stored, levies drilled, smithies blazing new swords. Hardly tourney sport. Vander." Cersei braided a lock of Myrcella's hair, fingers deft. "Robert has never craved war. Only wine, women, and glory on the lists." Tywin lifted the second letter. "Stannis craves order. And he writes of whispers, the alchemists moving wildfire in secrecy. The king's pyromancers speak of seeding half the city." Cersei's braid faltered. Jaime turned from window, face pale. "Wildfire?" Tywin's silence answered. Jaime strode to desk. "Let me ride back to court. The swords of the king's guard may still sway him." Cersei snorted. 7 white coats cannot still a man already aflame. Jaime's jaw tightened. Tywin watched them, calm as winter stone. He folded letters together. "We will send no men yet. We will watch, and we will remember every slight when flames recede." He extinguished one candle with 2 fingers, ignoring the burn. Cersei's eyes shone like polished topaz catching that small cruel light. South wind raked dust over Storm's End's ramparts. Lord Robert Baratheon lounged in an oaken chair outside the armory, goblet in hand, laughing as Renly recounted a bawdy tale. Yet behind Robert's roar lurked worry. Ravens arrived daily, ink wet with rumor. Eris stockpiling wildfire, Tywin refusing summons, Rhaegar sending cryptic letters north. Robert drank to muffle their clamor. Near armory doors, a lean man in black and silver watched. Jon Arryn, foster father, conscience-given flesh. He approached quietly. "Your grace-to-be grows uneasy." Robert sloshed wine. "Grace, 7. Save me. If the realm crowns my drunken head, We're doomed before war's horn ever blows. Aaron's gaze softened. You jest, yet your heart beats heavy. I see it. Many wildfire stories. Robert leaned forward, sun painting gold in his black locks. I know a cook's brother who saw jars loaded down some rat tunnel. Says the king wants the whole bloody city to shine green as Taroshi glass. Aaron sighed. Gossip multiplies in drought. Still, I have heard similar from men I trust. He glanced skyward, where gulls wheeled. I fear madness may birth flame. And if flame spreads, rebellion will follow as sure as dawn. Robert drained goblet. I'd take rebellion over burning alive trapped behind city walls. He rose, looming. If dragons mean to torch their own nest, I'll be the storm breaks them. But I'd rather spare small folk that horror. He kicked chair aside. I need truth, John. I need eyes inside those walls. Aaron placed steady hand on Robert's arm. I may have such eyes. Let us speak with Stannis. Across the yard, a banner snapped. A crowned stag. Antlers speared toward sky as if to gore the clouds. Bran Stark watched from far away, unseen. He perched in raven form atop a weather vane. Black feathers ruffled by sea gust. He had not meant to come here, but the flow of events tugged him like tide on driftwood. He studied Robert's thunderbrow, Aaron's calm counsel, the younger Renly's bright curiosity. Would one whisper here avert wildfire? Or would it forge another doom? Bran kept silent. The raven cawed, mundane. The wall stood in moonlit silence, a mile of rough glass shimmering. Lord Commander Gerald Hightower, elevated in a twist of fate after Corgilly's sudden passing, patrolled atop its height. Breath steamed between his mustache's white bristles. To south stretched haunted forest, to north endless frost shadow. Below, in Castle Black's yard, lantern pools revealed men drilling haltingly. News of unrest south reached even this frozen edge. Brothers argued over families left in Riverlands, over rumors of Stark and Baratheon stirring swords, over how dragons might burn the realm. Hightower paused, where a weirwood branch jutted through ice, roots invisible beneath white crust. He laid gauntlet on living wood. It pulsed faint warmth. He shut eyes, hearing only wind. For heartbeat, he imagined children laughing under summer leaves. Then a whisper thrummed through glove and bone. Listen. He jerked back. Snow crunched. No one stood near. He scanned parapet. Empty. Shaking, he resumed patrol, whisper echoing. Elsewhere along the wall, in Shadow Tower's silent library, a young steward named Jorah Mormont traced fingers over brittle scrolls describing the long night. He paused, frown deepening. A margin note, ink fresher than text, read simply, Primarch returns when green fire and red frost entwine. He rubbed it, but ink held. He could not recall seeing the note 2 days past. He rolled the scroll tight, mind uneasy. North of the neck, Mira Reed guided her canoe through lily-clogged water. Jojen dozed in stern, but his brow shone damp despite chill. Night after night, his green dreams flayed him. Towers burning emerald, a silver harp shattering like ice, wolves howling at moons eclipsed in blood. Mira paddled faster. They must reach Winterfell soon. They must find Bran and warn him before dream became bone. Her paddle struck hidden root, jarring. Ripples wove across water, stirring dead leaves. For an instant, Mira glimpsed a shape beneath, pale bark faces pressed in mud, eyes red as sunset. The faces stared, unblinking. She swallowed, forced gaze ahead. The north watched too keenly these days, trees leaning toward some dark crescendo. King's Landing awoke to a dawn of copper heat. In Flea Bottom, children dragged buckets to fountains gone dry. The black water stank low with sewage. Above, in Maegor's Holdfast, King Aerys donned scarlet robes too heavy for summer, though sweat trickled down spine. He admired himself in mirror. Sunken cheeks, brittle beard, eyes fever bright. He spread arms and spun, laughing. The singers are silent, he proclaimed. They wait for my song. Grand Maester Pacel watched from doorway, stooped under weight of many chains. He cleared throat. Your Grace, the small folk grow restless. They thirst. Eris approached, breath in Pacel's face. Let them thirst. Their throats will shrivel before mine ever does. He licked cracked lips, chuckled. Tell them cool water comes soon, when dragons soar again overhead. Pacel dared not ask how. Instead he bowed. As you command. Eris drifted to window and glared at city. Ant trails of small folk below looked like embers, waiting spark. Wildfire would give them spark, then flame, then purgation. He imagined towers melting, bells screaming. Sky turned viridian. Behind his gaze, Bran quailed. He had slipped again, unbidden, into the king's skull. A moth trapped in furnace. He fought to retreat, but heat pressed him. He heard his own voice inside Eris, echo from earlier nights, mutter of singers and betrayal. He felt the king's elation, a mania overshadowing all reason. In desperation, Bran flung his will outward, seeking any corridor of cold memory to hide within. He brushed against a different presence in Eris's mind. Small, bright, caged deep. Rhaella, the queen once beloved. Her gentle laughter lay fossilized beneath years of terror. Bran followed that memory like a rope, slipping into chambers where she had kissed babes, where echo of mother's lullaby still lingered. He hid there, panting, while Eris prattled to shadows. Through mists of memory, Bran glimpsed young Rhaella kneeling beside boy Rhaegar, binding his finger cut and singing soft Valyrian verse. Tears prickled Bran's eyes. The song shimmered silver in mind. Do not fear the storm, my star, for dragons ride above it. Sudden thunder cracked. Bran jerked back to present. Eris flinched too, though sky remained clear. Footsteps pounded hall. A Kingsguard knight. Sir Oswell went, strode in, helm under arm. Your Grace, a raven from Storm's End. Prince Rhaegar wishes audience regarding the tourney. Eris's smile died. Audience? He who consorts with stags. He'll bring their lice into my hall. Sir Oswell hesitated. The prince is your blood, sire. Blood can sour. Eris waved. No audience. Tell him to hold his pretty tourney. Let him crown his horse with roses. We have a city to flower. Flower in flame. Bran's spirit recoiled. But Eris's word was final. Sir Oswell bowed stiff and withdrew. On the road south, Brandon Stark urged his horse along King's Road, hooves clapping midday dust. Beside him raced Ethan Glover and a half-dozen sworn swords. Fields baked ochre under relentless sun. Grasses rattled bone-dry. Brandon scarcely noticed heat. He thought of Lyanna laughing as she whipped a willow branch at his shins, of Ned Solemn beside Winterfell's weirwood, of Benjen trailing after Maester tails. He'd protect them all. He'd cut down any threat. Targaryen, or stag, or whispering shadow, steel solved all. He spurred faster. Yet shadow traveled too. That night, at camp near a ruined sept, Brandon dreamed of a king of ash, whose mouth dripped jade flame. His sister stood before the king, hair floating weightless, eyes wide, but no scream left her lips. Instead she whispered, "Primarch," and crumbled to black petals. Brandon woke with sword half-drawn, chest slick. Ethan Glover sat watch by fire. Troubled. Dreams, Brandon muttered, sliding blade away. But the whisper clung, like wood smoke in hair. In the crumbling fastness of the children beneath the heart trees, Leaf approached Bran where he lay half senseless after his flight from Aerys' mind. Her small face, half bark, half child, regarded him solemnly. "You weave too much thread, little Primarch," she murmured. "We warned the first Greenseers thus. Meddle sparingly lest you snare yourself." Bran pushed up on elbows, exhausted. "If I do nothing, the city burns. If I do too much, the world splits." "How do I know the right weight?" Leaf tilted head, moss hair drifting. "You cannot. The world chooses. A river meets rocks, finds channels unforeseen. Guide a pebble perhaps, but not the flood. Now." Bran's voice cracked. If wildfire rises early, the long night may win. Or lose, Leaf countered. Flame may forge steel to meet ice. Who can say? Bran bowed head. The roots pulsed around them like blind serpents. Leaf touched his brow. You are young yet. Trust the north. Send no more whispers southward for a time. Let men's choices breathe. Bran closed eyes. He would try. But already he felt time's tension straining. At Storm's End, Rhaegar Targaryen stood atop Drum Tower. Flute of summer wine untouched on stone Merlon. Seabirds circled below. He read Brandon Stark's arrival in dust plumes along the road, hours before the Outriders announced him. Worse, Robert's laughter rang earlier, drunken yet sharp. The wolf charges. Rhaegar exhaled. He turned to Barristan Selmy. Sir, I must speak with Lord Stark the moment he dismounts. Barristan's silver helm nodded. Shall I summon a private chamber? A garden, rather. Let wind temper words. Day. Down in courtyard, Brandon swung from saddle even before hooves ceased. Sweat-streaked cheek, dust-coated boots. He strode forward, eyes blazing to find Lyanna among host of banners. Rhaegar descended the stair. They met in Rose Garden at dusk, petals dropping like sighs. Barristan kept 10 paces behind, silent. Brandon's first words hissed. Where's my sister? Rhaegar inclined head. Safe. With Lady Baratheon's maids. She arrived happy to see you. I'll judge that. Brandon stepped closer. Why summon her at all? Rhaegar clasped hands. Because storms gather, Lord Stark. I would weave alliances, not war. Lyanna's northern heart commands respect. If she honors our tourney, it signals unity. Unity? Brandon barked a laugh. Your father seeds wildfire beneath his capital. Your realm trembles at his shadow. Unity lies broken. Rhaegar's voice softened. Which is why I must act. I pursue knowledge of, and means to, temper him. Yet I cannot openly defy. I need allies who grasp the threat. Brandon's fury cooled by degrees, replaced by wary curiosity. You ask me to betray my king? I ask you to protect your people. Rhaegar's violet gaze shone like dusk lightning. If Aerys sparks wildfire, 500,000 die. Wolves, lions, sparrows alike. Stand with me to prevent it. Brandon stared. Rosewind carried faint scent of salt. He thought of Bran and Benjen training with wooden swords, of father's silent worry. He thought of Primarch whisper, whatever devil that meant. Words are wind, he said. Show proof. Rhaegar extended parchment. Sketches of tunnel routes, stock numbers, wildfire yields compiled by spies in Alchemist Guild. Brandon scanned, jaw set. Fear crept. Before reply formed, Barristan's hand rose. A raven spiraled downward, landing on Rhaegar's arm. Black feathers gleamed. Single white ring circled its left leg. It croaked, startling. Rhaegar slipped scroll from ring and unrolled. Brandon watched Prince's face tighten. What? Rhaegar folded note. My father sealed every city gate at sundown. He claims plague, but demands attendance prepare the last of wildfire tomorrow. Brandon's pulse quickened. So time is gone. Rhaegar met his eyes. Help me. Stark honor and dragon blood. Together we might stay his hand. Nannerwind. Brandon gripped hilt unconsciously. I ride at dawn to King's Landing. Too perilous, Barristan warned. Brandon barked. More perilous to wait. The world ends while we dither. Rhaegar laid hand on Brandon's forearm. Not alone. We go together. Brandon hesitated, saw earnest fire in Prince's eyes. Here stood son ready to thwart father. Brandon nodded. Overhead, raven flapped away. Mission done. Bran Stark felt relief flood his ghost body perched far above garden wall. He had not commanded the bird. He had merely watched. Time set its own pebbles rolling. Leaf's counsel echoed, guide, but do not shove. He withdrew from Storm's End, letting sea hush fade. Yet barely had peace touched him when he jerked into new vision. Blackmoor skies lit by viridian waves, towers crumbling. charred bones. He saw a white walker stride through cinder snow, blue gaze reflecting wildfire's glow. He screamed, but no voice left his lips, for he lay again in Winterfell's broken tower, summer howling tonight. Within Maegor's holdfast, Queen Rhaella pressed a damp cloth to her temple, pain throbbing behind eyes. She dreamt of burning fields again, green fire that sang children to ash. She rose, tremor in hands, and walked balcony where dawn's pale breath touched east towers. Beside her, a new septa, a nervous girl not yet 20, fiddled with rosary. "Your Grace, Master Rossart requests audience to discuss birthing chambers." Rhaella frowned. What need has a pyromancer with birthing chambers? Septa bowed. He would not say. Rhaella's gaze wandered to bay where ships hung silent. Something monstrous stirred under that calm surface. She felt it as mother feels babe shift. "Tell him I am indisposed." Septa dipped and departed. Rhaella exhaled. She pictured Rhaegar, her firstborn, far away. She prayed to Seven, and to R'hllor, and to old Valyrian gods that his path be safe. Yet prayer felt weightless in air grown heavy with dread. Behind her, stone creaked. She turned to empty corridor. No one. Yet faint, faint, a child's voice sang, "Do not fear the storm, my star." She clasped arms, tears rising. Memory or ghost? Night gathered. Rossart awaited Aerys in throne room. Candles guttered. The iron throne loomed, spikes jagged as broken teeth. When footsteps echoed, Rossart knelt. Aerys glided in, robe trailing. "Wisdom," the king purred. "Is the garden ready to bloom?" "Yes, your grace." Vats stand primed beneath sept, dragon pit, street of silk. One command, and the torches drop. Aerys' grin slit his face. "Then tomorrow we harvest ashes." Rossart bowed lower. But dread gnawed him. Something moved in gloom above, perhaps only wind-shifting banner, yet his skin crawled. "Singers in the walls," the king had said. Rossart heard none now, but he felt eyes unseen. Aerys settled on throne, metal scraping bone. He closed eyes. Rossart waited, kneeling, minutes stretching. At last Aerys whispered, "The song begins at sunrise, wisdom. Let the world see Dragonfire reborn." Rossart's stomach twisted. "As you will." He rose, backed away, heart hammering. Behind his eyes he saw faces of small folk in taverns. Children chasing dogs, potters firing clay. They would kindle with jar fire too. He swallowed bile. But he had sworn to wisdom of flame. Flame purged, cleansed. Kings commanded. Alchemists obeyed. He turned to go. As he passed a column, whispers brushed ear. "Primarch." He whirled. Nothing. Yet jar rims clinked like teeth tapping. He fled. Dawn's first blush touched Kingswood as a column of riders thundered up Roserad. Stark Wolf's head flying beside dragon, three-headed. At their head galloped Brandon Stark. Face set. Rhaegar beside him cloaked in crimson. Behind trailed Barristan, Ethan Glover, half-score Northmen, and Stormlanders. Dust clouds billowed. Birds scattered. At city's southern gate, gold cloaks barred passage. Captain raised hand. "By order of the king," city sealed. Brandon spurred. "Stand aside or be trampled." Captain leveled spear. "None may enter." Rhaegar drew reins. "I am Prince of Dragonstone. I command entry." Captain's eyes flicked to Targaryen sigil, then back. Fear wore duty. But behind him, gate winch creaked. Portcullis lowered further. Orders absolute. Brandon's sword rasped free. Northman growled. Rhaegar raised hand to temper. Barristan rode forward. "Captain, do you know me?" "Ser Barristan, yes." Sweat beaded. "Then know I keep vows. The prince must speak with the king. Lives depend. Open." Captain hesitated. Crossbowmen lined parapets above. Tension. Strangled breeze. Then a high horn blew from city interior. One blast. Eerie. Gold cloaks glanced behind in alarm. In confusion, portcullis halted, half open. Brandon seized moment. He rammed spurs. Horse lunged, ducked under spikes. Ethan and Northman followed. Rhaegar motioned Barristan. "Hold line. Let me through." The White Knight parried a spear, clearing path. Rhaegar charged beneath gate. Barristan close. Crossbows twanged too late. Bolts thudded dirt. Captain shouted, chaos spreading. Inside city, alarm bells pealed, not temple bells, but single low booming gongs sounding from beneath streets. Rhaegar recognized the alchemist's warning. He turned to Brandon. "We split. You find the pyromancers. I confront my father." Brandon nodded once. He and Northman veered toward Street of Sisters. Rhaegar galloped for Red Keep. Above, smoke drifted. Olive green. Wildfire leaked. In the keep's belly, Rossart stumbled above pools of shining liquid seeping from cracked jars. A tremor had toppled racks. He ordered apprentices to douse with sand, but jars flared at touch. Panic surged. He realized city's heat had bloomed too fierce. Clay sweated cracks. If one torch fell, doom. Footsteps thundered. Brandon Stark burst through archway, sword gleaming. Rossart recoiled. Brandon swept gaze over scene. Shattered pots. Emerald puddles. What devilry? Rossart straightened. Sacrifice for rebirth. Brandon advanced. "Where is the king?" "Throne room, but steel cannot sway him." Rossart gestured to puddle. "Only flame will." Brandon slashed. Blade tip nicked Rossart's arm. Blood spattered wildfire. It sizzled. Sparks dancing. Rossart gasped, backpedaling. Brandon stalked. Fury incarnate. Apprentices shrank. Brandon seized Rossart by collar, yanked close. "Douse these fires or I spill your innards in them." Rossart smelled iron rage. He stammered, "Too late. Triggers set. Only king may halt." Brandon's eyes blazed. He hurled Rossart into apprentice cluster. Then prey. He spun, raced toward stair. Boots splashing droplets that hissed. Rossart slumped. Apprentices whimpered. Liquid crept across floor, seeking tinder. Up spiral stair of Tower of the Hand, Rhaegar ascended 2 steps at a time. Every landing vibrated with distant booms. Guards gaped as he passed. In antechamber before throne room, Jaime Lannister blocked his way. White cloak stained smoke. "My prince," Jaime panted. "The king," he barred all entry. Rhaegar grasped Jaime's shoulders. "Sir, stand with me or step aside." Jaime's green eyes flicked to massive doors. From within, torches hissed. He swallowed. "I will not stop you." He pushed hard on carved oak. Doors groaned open. Smoke billowed. Rhaegar strode inside. Aerys perched on iron throne, robes now blackened by soot, hair wild. "My son comes," he cooed. "But too late." The song is sung. Rhaegar halted 5 paces away. "Father, end this. Recall pyromancers, quench the flame." Aerys laughed. "Quench? I will bathe 7 kingdoms in light." Singers promised. Rhaegar's throat tightened. He took cautious step. "I am your blood. Listen to me." Aerys hissed. "Blood betrays." He lifted hand. A lever behind throne clicked. Somewhere deep, chains rattled. Rhaegar's heart froze. Below, in tunnels, Brandon skidded as walls tremored. Far above, Pycelle climbed bell tower steps, wheezing, intent to ring alarm, though arms shook. In Flea Bottom, Potter's kiln imploded in green bloom. Bran Stark hurled himself into net of time. Screaming voiceless, he drove will like stake into moment. Stop. Stop. Prime arc burned bright. He felt his essence ignite. In the throne room, lever jammed. Aerys yanked, twisted, nothing. Rhaegar lunged. Seized lever, forced up. Sparks flew harmless. Aerys shrieked. Jaime's sword rasped free as King clawed for dagger hidden in seat. Rhaegar grabbed his wrists. "Leave it." Eris writhed snake-fast. "Burn them." Jaime stepped forward, uncertain. Rhaegar shook father once. "Father, look at me." For instant madness parted. Eris's eyes focused, saw son. Tears welled, but then flicker of hate returned. Bran retreated, spent. Battle inside King's soul must play. Eris spat. Rhaegar closed eyes. Sorrow heavy. He released wrists, stepped back. Jaime moved. Silver blade flashed. Butt of hilt cracked Eris's temple. King slumped unconscious against spikes. Jaime panted, lowering sword. Rhaegar stared. "You struck the king." "I saved him from himself," Jaime whispered. "And perhaps saved the city." Beneath them, wildfire leaked, but no spark birthed inferno. Rossart's chamber glowed, but apprentices extinguished nearest torches, heating Brandon's bellow. Pots still hissed, doom lingered, yet fuse paused. For this night, green apocalypse slept. Rhaegar knelt, pressing fingers to father's pulse, steady but faint. He rose, meeting Jaime's wide eyes. "You are sworn to protect the king. You did so." Jaime exhaled ragged. Rhaegar turned. "Fetch pyromancer, maester, and white sword tower." "We lock the vaults." Jaime ran. Rhaegar looked up. Smoke haloed the iron throne. Spikes like black dragon wings encasing a fallen man. He felt future tilt. Every choice after tonight would walk edge of chasm. Yet the chasm had not swallowed them. Far away Bran collapsed beside Summer, tears mingling with wolf's fur. The hinge creaked still, but had not snapped. He whispered, thanks to Leaf's faith, to Primarch within, to wolves and ravens, and men who dared defy. In forests of the far north, the others paused their silent march. Sensing shift. In the wall's library, Jor reread margin note. Ink faded now. In Casterly Rock, Tywin heard rumor of Prince's coup, and set his jaw, plotting. The tale bent, but continued. Dawn's pale fire rose over Red Keep, and for one more day the world endured. Gilt sunbeams crawled slow across the throne room's broken marble, as the last of the smoke drifted out open lancet windows. They revealed fallen torches in puddles of stiffening wax. The pools of green-black slime Bran alone recognized as cooled wildfire, and the sprawl of King Aerys Targaryen bound in chains of bronze, so fresh they still smelled of forge iron. 6 Kingsguard ringed the dais, blank helms hiding the raw shock of the hour. Ser Barristan Selmy alone kept visor up, for it was he who had pressed the point of protocol hardest. No white cloak hides from sunlight that which cloak has witnessed in shadow. He stood at Prince Rhaegar's right shoulder now, a pale sentinel, as Pycelle completed the soporific draft that would keep the Mad King sleeping. Rhaegar's expression was unreadable, but his hands trembled near imperceptibly. Each time Aerys groaned, and the chains rattled. Bran, perched in a rook on the beam above the Iron Throne, saw what human eye missed. Faint wisps of greenish vapor still curling from the joints of the metal chair, threads drawn to Aerys' skin as if his flesh exhaled them. The Primarch inside Bran whispered how easy it would be to nudge one more breath of insanity into the king's lungs and kill 1,000,000 by sunrise. Bran shut his spirit's ears. Guide a pebble, not the flood. He let the rook eye glitter cold, and simply watched as Rhaegar dismissed the alchemists under guard, then knelt on the steps to press his brow to the edge of the throne. Not in supplication, Bran sensed, but in farewell. When Rhaegar straightened, he ordered Jaime Lannister to escort the king to Maegor's secret chamber under the Maiden Vault, there to recover in utter solitude under watch, a phrase that would ring through the city by nightfall. Jaime's jaw twitched. He accepted with quiet obedience. Aerys' body, limp from the draft, was hauled away on a litter. The doors closed. Silence crashed. Rhaegar turned to the surviving small council. Pycelle, Chelsted, Bellis, a trembling Rossart, and Varys, whose lavender robes looked almost gaudy amid soot stains. "The realm has no need of a regency," the prince said softly. "It needs a remedy." This morning King Eris attempted slaughter. Before sunset every jar beneath this city will be removed and sunk a league at sea. Maester, draft the proclamations. Lord Rossar, you will guide the sailors, and if even a wisp of green escapes, you will perish before it reaches air." Rossart's mouth opened. No sound emerged. Varys bowed with fluid poise and volunteered quills, couriers, rumors shaped like bandages. Bran felt the spider's mind probe for advantage. Every twitch of Rhaegar's cloak filed like coin to spend later. Rhaegar seemed to sense the same and dismissed the eunuch swiftly. "Spread only one tale, that the king is ill, and the prince now stewards the crown until he mends." So began the quiet interregnum, though no chronicle would name it so for years. Brandon Stark emerged from the alchemist tunnels at noon carrying a child in his arms. A street urchin found coughing blood where pockets of vapor had burst. He shoved past gawkers near the Dragon Gate and laid the boy on cobbles, demanding water. Flea-bottom mothers hurried, sloshing in cracked earthen jugs. Brandon knelt, as if at Winterfell's hearth, coaxing the child to sip. Blood rimmed the little one's nose, but the wheeze eased. The crowd's wariness softened. When Brandon straightened, every dirty face turned northward to him, with a flicker of hope too sharp to bear. He found Lyanna hours later in the yard of the Manse of Whispers where Rhaenys played. Dust smeared her cheeks. Her gray eyes widened at his filthy armor. She flung arms around him, and the world thawed a heartbeat. Yet, Lyanna's first question was not of home. "Will the city burn?" she whispered. Brandon shook his head. "Not today." He did not add, "It will burn in memories for as long as men recall the taste of being nearly swallowed by green fire." Within a day, the Starks departed under light escort, carrying with them parchments signed by Rhaegar, granting them free passage, fresh mounts, and silent gratitude. The prince could not spare soldiers. He needed every blade within walls, while wildfire jars clanked out through the mudgate onto barges. Brandon accepted. But Lyanna lingered in the Red Keep till the final hour, speaking with Rhaegar in a shaded balcony where singers' vines curled over old masonry. Bran drifted close through a dragonfly's eyes and heard no treason, only talk of songs, children, and winter's long reach. The wind tugged Lyanna's hair across the prince's knuckles once. He did not move, and she did not pull away. Bran fled the insect body, heart drumming, for this was a pebble the flood might claim to spite him. In Casterly Rock, Lord Tywin read the raven's leaden words twice, then once aloud to himself, as though tasting bile. Prince Regent Rhaegar assumes duties. King, in disposition. Requests, loyalty. The great lion's green gaze hardened. He summoned Kevan, Cersei, and Jaime's younger brother Tyrion, still a boy, yet sharp, to sit at the small stone table. "Rhaegar holds father captive," Tywin began, "yet spares the city. The question is what the realm values more, mercy or strength." Cersei smirked. "Strength crowned dragons before." "Strength wins tourneys, and strength sits latent in my son's sword." She nodded to the empty chair where Jaime would have sat. Tywin's lips thinned at the absence. "Your brother's conduct will be weighed carefully. If Rhaegar fails to solidify rule, the Kingslayer may wear that epithet in truth soon. We must prepare for a realm guided by a prince too gentle." Tyrion's mismatched eyes glittered. Gentle he may be, yet he unseated a madman in an hour, and kept 500,000 souls breathing. That kind of gentleness is edged. Kevan coughed into his fist. Tywin showed no ire, merely revised inner calculus. Orders flew down mine shafts like sparks. Raise levies discreetly. Triple scouts on Golden Tooth, ready galleys. Casterly Rock would not be surprised again. On Driftmark, Corlys Valerian's grandchildren stood watch, as 30 war galleys escorted scorpion-studded hulks, laden with wildfire kegs into deep, black water. At precise depths, sailors heaved jar after jar overboard. Alchemists prayed. Green plumes gushed, then died beneath crushing fathoms. The sea swallowed secrets as it always had. Yet Bran, perched in a sea raven overhead, felt the chill. Wildfires seeded an ocean rift that legend called the burn scar, a crack that steamed on winter nights. Even drowned flame can whisper. Rhaegar turned the last barge himself, palm steady on tiller, purple cloak snapping. Sailors cheered, pyromancers sobbed in rage, gulls wheeled. By dusk only 43 jars remained in Red Keep's deepest vault. For defense, Pycelle argued. Rhaegar conceded but locked key on a chain worn under his tunic. Northward the Starks rode hard. At the Trident, Brandon's party paused at River Run. Lord Hoster Tully lay abed, coughing crimson. Yet he insisted on seeing Rickard's heir. In the sickroom's hush, Hoster gripped Brandon's wrist with surprising strength. "Read my daughter Catelyn now," he rasped. "Tie north and Riverlands before southern dragons jockey anew." Brandon glanced to Catelyn, freckled, determined, eyes red from vigil, and saw both plea and steel. War might yet come. Alliances sealed in quiet corridors could quell storms. He agreed. The betrothal was sworn that night by candle, and the grief-tinged smell of laudanum. Catelyn wept alone after. Brandon drank with river nights till dawn, but every song turned to ash on his tongue. Lyanna wandered River Run's godswood. Beneath an elm she carved swirling designs in dirt, moves of Braavosi water dancers Ned once described. Fireflies winked. She whispered Rhaegar's name, testing how it felt on air. When she heard leave-taking bells, she wiped trenches smooth with boot heel and followed her brothers wordless. Bran watched from the eyes of a fish in moat, tail flicking like a metronome of fates entwining. In Storm's End, Robert Baratheon hammered the Raven's cylinder flat on his table. He what? Chains his father and silences a million tongues. Jon Arryn kept voice calm. "Hey, save them, Robert." The young lord paced, cupless, wine sloshing in skin. "A true king rules from the front, not behind curtains of maesters." Arryn eyed him. "You sound as though you would welcome rebellion despite no city burning." Robert stopped, chest heaving. "I welcome truth. If Rhaegar becomes king, there's still the matter of Lyanna." "Menshmar." Arryn raised brow. "Your betrothed is safe, riding home." "Safe but changed." Robert punched oak. "I feel it." He stared at calloused knuckles, as if prophecy written there. Bran, drifting unseen in roof-beam shadows, wondered whether heartbreak or hubris would birth the future war now. He tightened his spirit, resolved to watch only. Above the wall, Lord Commander Hightower stood again where the weirwood root jutted through ice. A raven landed on the root, feathers black except one white stripe. It croaked thrice and flew. Hightower bent, brushed fingers along bark, felt pulse like distant drums. Then a crack fissured the ice shelf 20 yards north, a splintering shriek. Guards shouted. Hightower spun as half a ton of frozen glass sheared away into void. Snow billowed. Within the exposed cross-section, glimmered veins of pale blue crystal, frozen tears of something older than the wall itself. Their glow faded as air kissed them. When calm returned, Hightower whispered to his steward, "Send word to the Prince Regent. Strange forces stir." Every man present vowed to keep silent about the crystal light, yet fear rode their shoulders down the stair. During the night, Jorah Mormont discovered the margin note, vanished entirely, parchment whole, no sign of fresh ink. He stood before hearth, scroll limp, and muttered, Primarch, as if sound itself could carve memory where ink refused. Back at Winterfell, Rickard Stark knelt in solar before a bronze brazier where green pine needles snapped in fragrant smoke. 2 ravens perched on beam above. One of the castle rookery, one Bran's secret vassal. Rickard read his son's letter thrice, astonishment turning to grim pride. Brandon had saved a city. Ned marched now from the Eyrie with Jon Arryn to discuss realms. Even Benjen drilled squire classes harder. When Rickard rose, the northern wind shivered tapestries. He donned the ceremonial cloak of gray wool, white fur collar broad as a shield. "Send riders to every bannerman," he commanded Maester Luwin. "The North congratulates Prince Rhaegar yet reminds him winter, still comes. We will harvest, stock, train, and watch. Mesimtar. In crypt that night, Rickard set fresh oil in the braziers, before the lords of old. He paused at Lyanna's soon-to-be slot, uncut, and rested a hand upon blank stone. His breath fogged. May I see you safe married before deeper snows. The crypt seemed to breathe back the word Primarch in a rustle of unseen leaves. Rickard flinched. He left hastily. Bran retreated from his father's form, heart aching. He longed to reveal himself, to tell father he lived in truth, but that thread threatened tapestry wholly. In the Red Keep, Rhaegar convened great council of lords, a daring stroke. Ravens flew to Sunspear, Highgarden, Casterly Rock, Pike, Gulltown. For 6 weeks emissaries arrived. Hall was stripped of all but narrow tables. Wildfire vault keys dangled at Rhaegar's belt, visible. The prince outlined events plainly. The king's madness, the thwarted plan, the pledges to heal. Then he offered choice. Name him protector, until the maesters deemed Aerys fit, or depose the king properly by vote, crowning a new dragon. Mace Tyrell delighted in florid speeches of charity. Oberyn Martell, arriving in Rhaenys' carriage, demanded Aerys' head on pike for plotting his sister's death. Tywin Lannister's chair sat vacant. He sent only a terse raven. The lion watches, judges, decides. Hoster Tully's proxy, Lysa, voted Rhaegar regent. Balon Greyjoy laughed loud and abstained. Stannis Baratheon, flint-jawed, pressed technicalities of royal law. The council deadlocked. Day 5. News broke. Aerys vanished from cell, the 2 guards dead, faces blistered by unseen heat. Jaime Lannister swore he found melted bronze links on floor, but no sign of the king. Panic bloomed. Some cried sorcery, others Tywin's hand. Rhaegar moved swiftly. Citywide hunt, gates barred, but many lords saw omen. In high gallery Varys whispered that wild rumor served stability. Better a bogeyman in night than warlords in streets. Rhaegar snapped, I want truth, not rumors, and stalked away. That night Bran slipped into alley behind the dragon pit, and found Aerys there, barefoot, hair wild, humming to the shattered dome. He stroked broken dragon skulls, crooning lullaby Rhaella once sang. Bran hovered before risking step into mind. He felt cracks wide as canyon. The void where whispers once filled space now vacant, cold. Aerys hummed not madness, but loneliness. Slowly Bran withdrew, letting Mooncloud hide him. Aerys crept deeper into darkness. Bat wings rustled like applause. In far north, Mira Reed and Jojen reached Moletown, just as first snow of new season dusted shingles. Jojen shivered in stale ale stench, eyes glassy jade. He told Mira a dream. Bran seated atop white weirwood throne, roots piercing his legs, ravens flocking round, and a shadow made of wildfire drinking light from his chest. The Primarch burns himself hollow, Jojen said. Mira held brother tight. They hired 2 mules and pressed for Winterfell. At White Harbor dockyards, the Manderleys built 3 new carracks, hulls tarred black to hide in night. Lords argued purpose. Records would later speak of icebreakers. But Bran watched from seagull vantage as shipwrights hammered dragonskull figureheads onto prow. Symbolic. Wyman Manderley declared. For the North remembers even dragons can drown. Tywin Lannister at last moved. 50,000 men rode from Gold-rich hills, ostensibly to inspect Riverland borders, now that Tully health wanes. Jaime, summoned from court, came only as far as Crakehall before Raven redirected him. Remain in capital. The lion's roar must guard its cub. Jaime obeyed, but his nights grew sleepless. Each echo in stone reminded him of lever jam, of King's mad eyes. Cersei, forced by father's will, accepted proposal to wed Prince Viserys. Barely 8. To secure Lannister influence should Aerys die. She swallowed fury and imagined a different crown. A queen regnant besides Rhaegar someday. Seeds of red ambition rooted. In Skagos, where the sea gnaws rock like a patient wolf. A clan chieftain found a glass candle washed ashore. Black as oil, edges warm though sun hid 2 days. He gifted it to a passing maester bound south. That maester never reached Old Town. His ship burned green on horizon. Word of the strange flame reached the citadel anyway, stirring archmaesters from dusty peace. One such, Marwyn the Mage, packed his heavy Valyrian steel chain links and fled by night, muttering, "The glass urges me." He sailed north, seeking Bran's echo without knowing name. At Winterfell, Bran for first time in moons emerged from vision long enough to share bread with old Nan. His body felt alien, legs thin, eyes sunken. Nan told tales of Harrenhal's curse as she buttered oatcake. Blackstone melts when dragons rage, yet hearts melt quicker. Bran listened, heart heavy. He asked of Nan's earliest memory. She said, "A young Stark rode south to stop a war and never came home. But another Stark rode north to hold realm together." Bran considered this answer through 3 lenses: boy, Primarch, Greenseer, and tasted caution, regret, duty intertwined. That night, he dreamed not of wildfire but of snowflakes swirling into direwolf shapes, each flake an eye blinking sapphire. When he awoke, summer lay atop him, growling at nothing. In the red keep solar, Prince Rhaegar watched his daughter Rhaenys sing Valyrian lullaby to baby Aegon. Elia dozed nearby, exhaustion painting hollows under lovely eyes. Outside, thunder rumbled. Summer's last storm approached. Barristan entered, face grave. "My prince." Scouts sight King's Landing banners near Roserod. Tywin's host, perhaps 40,000. Rhaegar exhaled. He sniffs weakness. He rose, kissed Elia's brow, whispered for servants to prepare departure of royal family to Dragonstone. Elia protested, but Rhaegar insisted. "A Sieg cannot claim you." When Barristan closed doors behind, Rhaegar strode to Wildfire Vault, key hung on wall map of Westeros. He waited in palm. "Sir," he said, "if Lannister horns sound at gate, you will ride to Tywin with terms. Withdraw, or the secret of his part in Aerys' escape shall reach every sept pulpit." Barristan frowned. "Do we have such proof?" "We will." Rhaegar looked to Varys in corner, who emerged from shadow with graceful nod. Spiders spin webs from rumor thick as rope. Thus diplomacy sharpened edges invisible. Outside walls, Tywin watched sunrise fringe roofs, red and gold. Ziga engines still marched from baggage lines. He calculated grain stores, morale, fleet parity. The city looked intact. No green scorch. Perhaps Rhaegar indeed quelled madness. Tywin's heart beat once heavy. He'd gambled half his power on the realm's fear, and might have misread cards. A rider approached under truce flag. Barristan Selmy, helm tucked arm. Conversation spanned fewer than 200 heartbeats. Tywin never spoke above mild tone. When they parted, Barristan carried 2 sealed scrolls. One to the prince, one to the hidden king. Tywin ordered host, "Make camp, not encroach." He would wait and watch again. From Rook's view, Bran read neither scroll, but he felt cunning radiate like heat. Tywin would move only after realm bent itself into shape most profitable. In the Dothraki Sea far east, a red comet tore skies new. Nomads fell to knees, some screamed prophecy. But at Vis Teloro, a broken city of white stone, a shadow grew across moon-bleached courtyard. From cracks between tiles leaked tinges of green flame like veins awakening. No man stood witness, yet crows flocked to watch. Bran's third eye brushed the scene briefly and recoiled. Some stray jar must have floated east years prior upon sea currents, he deduced. Smashed here by fate. Even continents away, wildfire sought Wick. He marked the place on memory's map and hurried back to Westeros, shivering. The world grew too tangled for any single hand. 2 moons later, Jon Arryn and Ned Stark arrived into capital's uneasy calm. Markets traded, sept bells tolled, but soldiers from half a dozen houses patrolled side by side, each distrustful. Ned met Rhaegar privately in bleak rookery. Bran, disguised in raven perched near, listened. "Rhaegar, Your brother saved us. Your father's counsel steadies North. I need you in my counsel. Ned. The North swears to realm, not man. Yet I believe you mean to heal. Rhaegar smiled tired. Then stand by me while we search for the king. Without him, dead or hidden, the realm's wounds will not close. Too many will claim right to tear crown away. Bendas. Ned considered. If we find him, I will abdicate after a conclave. Let the lords elect between myself and viceroys, under terms of new charters limiting royal fire. He tapped scroll of proposed Charter of Ashes, limiting wildfire and expanding high council power. Ned read lines and felt hope flicker. From Beam, BRAN absorbed charter's clauses. No dragon, literal or chemical, above law. Annual Council of Lords. Oath of mercy for Kingsguard to restrain tyrant. He tasted possibility of gentler age, and then the prime arc stirred. Warning. For each law forged, another loophole invites cunning. Yet progress must begin. BRAN let hope seed. That night, winds screaming across Blackwater carried faint stench of smoke again. In a granary near Lion Gate, a single forgotten jar cracked behind stacked hay. Sparks hissed. A watchboy saw green glow, grabbed pail, drowned it. Disaster shrank to one scorch mark and a tale for grandchildren. Still, word reached Rhaegar by dawn. He ordered citywide search for survivors of Pyromancer Order, still loyal to madness. Rossart. Since freed on parole and helping to chart retrieval sites, disappeared. 2 apprentices too. Aerys had disciples yet. Brandon Stark returned home to Winterfell, a hero no bard had time to immortalize. Rickard clasped him before 1,000 cheering peasantry. Feast roared. Yet Brandon sat restive. He had slain only a cult of fire, storms yet brewed. When Mira Reed arrived with Jojen, Bran's siblings rushed to greet friends. Brandon heard Jojen's latest green sight, and face whitened. The night grows long sooner than calendars claim. Rickard summoned lords in echoing hall, tables strewn with rushes. He spoke of grain militias, maester lines to wall. Northern banners nodded. Even the Boltons acquiesced, haunted by wildfire rumors. That eve Lyanna found Ned gazing at full moon over battlement. She touched his arm. Do you ever feel stories are writing us? Not we them? Ned smiled faint. If so, may the author spare our people. She linked fingers through his. Bran within heart tree root, felt kinship strong as weirwood's sap. Far south in Old Town's starry sept, the high septon collapsed mid-benediction, eyes boiling green. Witnesses screamed witchcraft. Within hours rumor tied event to dragon sorcery. Rhaegar's envoys denied, but faith's ear already deaf. A zealot faction bloomed in dusky cloisters, preaching that the flame of fallen angels now drips in every chalice. Their leader, a gaunt septon named Barramond, brandished a melted bronze link, said ripped from Aerys's chain. He called for purging each city storehouse of wildfire. Peasants rallied. A second front of fear opened. Year turned. Frost crept south earlier than memory. Crops still plentiful thanks to northern stores, but travelers whispered that somewhere beyond Shivering Sea, an island of summer burned green for 10 days straight, smoke towering black. Sailors swore tides shifted. At the wall, new crystals erupted after each moonset, only to fade. Hightower wrote grave letters that found few readers. At last, one winter dawn, word arrived of Aerys sighted near Duskendale. Royal scouts found only charred barn and phrase, burned them scrawled in soot, on barn door. Days later, a fishing village down coast exploded in emerald plume, visible from Maidenpool. Panic soared. Rhaegar convened war council. Tywin attended in person. Unexpected, lion armored resplendent. Robert Baratheon thundered in same hour, Renly and Stannis flanking. He bore news of storms heavy in Stormlands and hearts heavier. Shouts echoed under Red Keep vaults. Tywin proposed swift strike. Hunt the mad dog with hounds of every house. Robert clapped approval. Ned advised caution. Aerys baits us to chaos. Through Argent Dawn the council debated until Varys slipped parchment into Rhaegar's hand. Rossart captured near Dragonstone. Claims he carries King's final order. Rhaegar froze. He read, lips tightening. The old powers stir. The true Primarch will reveal himself when green swallows red. Burn until he rises. Signed Aerys. Scrawled with blood. Silence crushed room as Rhaegar read aloud. Lords glanced to each other, then to torches flickering jade illusions. Tywin spoke first. Then let us end prophecy. So the hunt for the Mad King began. 100 search parties sweeping Crownlands, Stormlands, even Myrish Isles. Gold cloaks, knights, sellsword companies joined. Robert rode with Ned beside. Tywin funded half. Rhaegar remained to steer Crown, posting Barristan to lead King's spear. Bran followed in hundreds of birds, wolves, streams, always glimpsing Aerys minutes past. The king moved like fever, whispering to fishermen, lighting farmsteads, trusting no one. His hair whitened in wind, his eyes twin emerald shards. Bran realized with dread that Aerys did not need wildfire now. The strange vapor bled from his very pores. Wherever he stepped, grass mottled sick green. A living fuse. On a bleak headland called Wind's Mercy, Barristan's spear force cornered him at last. Rain slanted sideways, waves crashed cavern. Aerys stood beneath lightning-ripped sky, arms out. Robe torn, fire shimmered in each droplet near him. Barristan advanced alone, helm off, white cloak soaked. Your Grace, he called above roar. Come home. Aerys laughed, voice echoing like glass breaking. Home burns behind me. Ahead sleeps only dawn of fire. Nay. He raised palm. Lightning struck the rock to his left, except Bran saw. Lightning curved mid-fall, drawn to static aura swirling king. Bolt exploded, hurled Barristan back. Guards rushed. Aerys stepped into cavern mouth where barrels of lamp oil waited, stacked by unknown hand. He reached. Blood-stained fingertip touched staves. Bran screamed in soul. He saw the calculus. Oil a mere catalyst. Aerys the spark, cliff cave a natural barrel. The blast would climb wind and smite Barristan's host in one bloom, overshadowing Dragonstone across channel. The prime arc lurched. Bran flung entire essence into a single gull diving at King. Beak slashed across Aerys' eye. The king screamed, stumbling. Spark missed. Barristan, half stunned, hurled shield like discuss. Rim struck Aerys' wrist, knocking hand wide. Aerys fell hard. Head cracked stone. Green mist puffed but no blade of fire. Guards swarmed, doused him with seawater, chained what flailed limbs remained. The living fuse sputtered, hissed. Barristan stood swaying, face a roadmap of scorched flesh, but alive. He ordered King bound in damp irons, mouth gagged with wet linen, body sealed in cask of pitchless oak for transport, lest the very air near him ignite. So the Mad King returned to King's Landing, not on litter but locked chest. Pycelle dosed him with dream wine potent as coma. Wildfire seethed beneath skin but could not escape. For a time, the great sept of Baelor filled with lords to witness trial of a living monarch for crimes of madness, unheard of precedent. High Septon Barramond arrived, brandishing faith militant scrolls. Tywin sat robed neutral. Robert glowered. Ned stoic. Rhaegar took dais, but deferred to assembled. Maesters testified, alchemists wept. Small folk tales chilled blood. Yet when crate was pried open and Aerys propped upright, he looked more corpse than king. He muttered only Primarch, Primarch, eyes milk white. Bran hovered in rafters as nightjar. He feared that slightest torch flash could draw green breath. But none came. After 7 days' deliberation, council voted Aerys to be stripped of all titles, confined for life in Storm's End dungeon, lined with black stone and salt water. Rhaegar crowned by unanimous acclamation. Tywin's voice rang first in oath. Robert raised horn to cheer. Faith accepted after Rhaegar swore to Charter of Ashes. Realm exhaled. Bran felt weight shift. The hinge squealed again, but in new position. War averted, for now. Yet portents multiplied. Comet. Weirwood crystals, drowned wildfire whispering. BRAN recognized stage merely reset for winter's prime act. He departed capital in mind, and soared over Westeros. Amber fields, rust forests, silver rivers. Life bustled ignorant beneath. In crypt of Winterfell, his own body slept as summer curled. Leaves of heart tree quivered in breeze, murmuring Primarch. Primarch Akdot. BRAN whispered back. Not God, only guide. He settled deeper into dreams where ice met flame. He would weave gently, pebble by pebble, until spring dared bloom again, or until green fire and white frost entwined as prophecy promised, and the world called for the final shaping only a Primarch could dare.